Tyler Herro gets an extension, 4 years, $130 million. I would like to sign a contract for 4 years, $130 million. But apparently Tyler Herro deserves that, and I don't, which breaks my heart.
Racist.
But he's the reigning sixth man of the year, so maybe he does deserve it. Matt, what do you think?
I have mixed feelings about this contract. On the one hand, it's like, if you don't sign Herro, you have to have him back. The Heat have no maneuverability, and like a sign and trade, like that's not a serious option like a lot of people think that it is. But on the other hand, I think there is no way someone would have paid him $30 million in free agency. I just don't think that's the case. And I know he would have been a restricted free agent. I much rather would have gone down that route than paying him now. The problem is that, like, Herro is just not that good. He's just like, he's how many Tyler Herros are in the league right now?
Warriors have like 4.
A lot, man. There's a lot. I people don't realize this. Like, I asked people, like, where does he rank among guards? People are saying, like, he's around 20. I think it's way lower than that. I mean, how many Terry Roziers are realistically in the NBA? A whole ton. So,
yeah.
And he's a good player, and they desperately need the juice on offense. But a guy who goes out there and, like, creates some shots for himself at, like, decent efficiency and doesn't do a whole lot else doesn't move me a ton. Part of the thing is this new TV deal is coming, and I've seen that, reports that they're going to be looking for $75 billion in this TV deal. The current one's 20. I said $1 billion in this TV deal. The current is 24. Now, obviously, the salary cap is tied to the revenue, right? So that would, from what I just Googled it for like 2 minutes. Current NBA revenue is about $10 billion a year. Tripling the TV deal would put that about 15. So you could expect maybe loosely a 50% jump in the salary cap, but that's very, very loose. So maybe you look at this Tyler Herro deal that isn't going to kick in until that new TV deal comes along as maybe being closer to 20 million. But even then, I think you could argue that if you know this big deal is coming and you're going to have everyone's going to have all this cap space, shouldn't you position yourself to have cap space so you can maneuver? Because now, I mean, the Heat's even with a 50% increase, the Heat aren't going to be able to do that much, you wouldn't think, because Jimmy Butler's going to be getting $50 million and Duncan Robinson's going to be getting $20 million, and you have to extend Bam, and now Tyler Herro's getting this huge money. I'd have to go look at their cap sheet, and maybe they still will because it's just such a big increase. But part of me feels like maybe they lost out on a chance to get better. But then on the other hand, it's like they're so old, does it matter? But if they're so old, do you really want to lock yourself into this team this much that maybe doesn't have a super clear way to get better other than like, Bam, please be very good on offense. Tyler Herro, please be better than you are currently right now.
That's where I'm at. That is exactly where I'm at. Because I look at the deal and it's like, well, okay, you signed him before Poole resets the market. Like, all right, fine. You need him in your current state. You do need him because there's not much other juice. But to me, it's a failure of an offseason by the Heat because they didn't trade him.
Yes.
I think they need to reinvent themselves in order to win the title. They remind me a little bit. They're like the NBA's Packers, very successful organization over the past couple of years, and a team that's like gotten in the deep runs in the playoffs, but they just don't quite have the juice to get there, and they've been running it back. And at this point, they're just a little bit too old. So I think they dangled Herro for Mitchell, for KD, and they were hoping some team would be stupid enough to take him as a centerpiece of a trade. They really needed that to happen to extend this title window and add a real, not that Jimmy Butler isn't a real number one, but maybe add enough juice to really get them over the top, which they just didn't have. For as good as their defense is and as gutsy as Jimmy Butler's performance has been, I mean, they were a missed 3 away from getting to the finals. It's not a bad team at all, but I don't think they would have beaten the Warriors. And they needed Donovan Mitchell. They need just a little bit more juice. And Herro, they needed to trade him. I think they needed to trade him this offseason for it to be a success. They needed to somehow add a guy who could bring them that title, because what does another Eastern Conference Finals appearance do for you? What does even another finals loss do for you if you're the Heat? You've been there before. You're a historically successful organization. This isn't a team that's like, if the Timberwolves made it the finals this year and lost, it's like, holy shit, like that's great. We never do anything. So the Heat are not a team like that. It's finals or nothing for this to be considered a successful season. And like, I get why they signed Herro, because if they don't have Herro going forward, they don't have any, like, then they're really screwed when it comes to juice. Like, well, but they stayed the same. They stayed the same. They got older, and it's like, well, where does that open your finals window? So to me, it's a failure of an offseason. To me, like the contract, if it was some other team, maybe I'd say like, all right, fine. But for the Heat and for this to be their biggest move of the offseason, it's just incredibly underwhelming to me. And I think it kind of it shuts their window a little bit, or maybe a whole lot now. Not that their window was like crazy, but the only thing they could do to open that window was trade for an all-star, and they didn't do that. And the common trope is you either get better, right? If you stay the same, you get worse. Yeah, we say it all the time. And Herro's just kind of, I think, like wave the white flag. Okay, we didn't get anybody. It's just a kind of a signal that we're just going to stay the same. And I think Pat Riley, maybe he's overrating Herro and Bam and saying, we're fine with that. Maybe they didn't add in a little bit more than they should have, or they didn't add what they should have to these trades by overrating their young core. I think that might be a miscalculation that they're making right now. So I don't like it. Let me ask you guys this. Do you think the Heat, I mean, they were the 1 seed last year. They probably won't be that again, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that they're still going to be one of those top 6?
They're all over the place. I think they'll be one of those top 6 teams. I'm not that low on them. I just think you kind of, if you haven't done it now, I don't feel any strong reason to believe they're going to do it next year, other than like they want to get Bam more involved on offense. But he's just in that tier 2 of centers for me right now.
How many years are we going to say that? Right.
This team feels like a 3, maybe a 4 seed.
It's tough, and the gap between being a 1 and a 4 seed in the East is going to be like 2 or 3 wins. So I don't really care that much about that. I just think I feel bad. There was no winning play for them this offseason. That's what I'll say. They did not, there wasn't a move that they could go make. Overpaying Duncan Robinson is killer, and they don't have their full pick package because of that stupid 2026 pick swap that Houston has. And Tyler Herro is just not quite good enough to build a trade around. And if you're going to trade Bam, it needs to be for like Kevin Durant, or it's not worth it. But even if you did that, it'd kill the defense. Yes. So it's just, there just wasn't a move here. The real solution is that they needed Kyle Lowry to be better. Yes. Their window, that's why it's the Packers. Their window closed a little bit. Like they had their shot and they missed it. And now they're keeping the window to be good open as long as possible, but the window to be great and the window to win a championship, to me, it looks right. Closed. I mean, the Cavs made a huge move, got Donovan Mitchell. The Hawks, got better with I can't even think of his name right now. DeJounte Murray, yes. And then you look at the Bucks, who are probably better, and the Celtics, who just went to the finals. And they added Malcolm Brogdon, and the Nets are going to be healthier next year. The smarter move and the more self-aware move would be, don't give them this contract, and just, we're going to start playing the long game again, and we're so good at developing talent that we're going to kind of reset the clock and not be so mired down by this core that was a finals contender last year or 2-3 years ago, because it's just not going to be that going into the future. So I think it was a rare miscalculation by the C team, but I don't think the Herro contract is the end of the world for them. And I think by the time it's over, it's going to be whatever, but it's just, I agree. It just doesn't move me. And it just, like DeJounte Murray, they really couldn't do that because they can't afford to be any worse at shooting. They are as bad at shooting as they can possibly get away with. And like the Donovan Mitchell trade, they just couldn't quite beat that deal, could they? Yeah. The Cavs without just throwing had Bam a little in. Bit without more throwing gas. Bam in. That's the thing. And then at that point, it's not worth it. At that point, it's only a marginal improvement. Right. So it's I do feel a little bad for them. I was gunning for them to get somebody. I wanted it so bad, and they just didn't quite have the pieces. But we'll see how the TV deal goes and Tyler Herro goes, and they'll still be very good.
They needed, I don't know what GM out there would really fall for Herro. They needed some GM to be stupid and look at him and get entranced. They needed some racist GM out there who looked at him.
They needed
Donald Sterling to still be in the league with Kawhi and Paul George and look at Herro.
They needed the Knicks to fall for Herro and then also have a really good player.
You're right. They needed the Knicks. They needed the Knicks to have they needed RJ Barrett to be way better and unhappy with the situation. That was the only way.
But the branding, the branding of Tyler Herro.
Yes.